and welcome to Success Unlimited Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Simmons, and with me today we have Catharine O'Leary from Smart Quiz Solutions. Catharine, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and being with us and our audience today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tom. I'm excited to be here.
We have a lot to cover. You have some really unique solutions, and you've had a lot of success, which is the goal of this podcast is to discuss the challenges and highlight the successes in your journey, and really have a lot of questions regarding that. So to kick things off, would you mind giving us a brief synopsis of your background and how you came to start Smart Quiz Solutions?
Yeah, so I spent the last 30 years in corporate. So I worked for corporations, always in a market research and consumer insights role. So whether I was working with a supplier of market research or actually working client side, hiring people that did market research, I was the person that asked a lot of questions of a lot of people and translated that information into whatever the corporation needed, whether it was new product innovation or marketing campaigns, sales conversations, maybe it was bundling. Basically, how corporations can meet the needs of their clients and their customers better. When I started my own business, and I worked for a lot of the Fortune 50, so Apple and Adobe, HP, Pepsi. When I started my own business, I didn't really know how to take that skill set and create my own business. So I went on a little bit of a learning journey. I started in network marketing and direct sales, and I loved the model. I think it's a great model for getting started. I love the products. I love the people. I love the events. I did not love because I wasn't good at the lead generation side of things and attracting the right clients. And I got to a point where, I was doing it all like I sucked at it, honestly, Tim or Tom, sorry. It was terrible. It was paid advertising that went nowhere. It was spending hours on the phone with conversations with the wrong people. It was posting into social media that, went out into the, ether and never came back. Um and it got to the point where a decision had to be made, right? I mean, the money was tight, the business wasn't growing, and I was going bonkers. Like I didn't love what I was doing because it was very stressful. So I had a choice. I could go back to corporate, and for me, where I live and what that meant that entails is a 3-hour daily commute. So I could get back in the car and do the 3-hour daily commute again, and get back into it, or I could figure it out. And I quickly, like within 2 minutes, decided that there are just not enough podcasts and audiobooks in the world that'll get me back in the car for 3 hours a day. So I went on a quest to figure it out. And what I wanted was a system to attract my ideal clients, and vet them, like make sure that they're qualified. And before they got to me, before they got on a call, before they got, into my world, if you will, to make sure that I was talking to the right people and to, save not just myself time, but to save their time. Because it didn't, it was wasting time on both sides of the desk, if you will. So I went on a quest to find that, and I found quizzes and quiz funnels, and the light bulbs kind of went on, right? Like when you realize, like, oh, that's how I can use this 30 years of experience and, all the training that I have and all the education that I have into my own business. I didn't have to become a market research supplier. I could help entrepreneurs actually create, tools that would attract their ideal clients. So I created a quiz for my network marketing business, and I tripled my leads and I doubled my sales. I thought, "That's great, but, it's sample size of 1. So, let's, try this with some other people, make sure that it wasn't just, a weird fluke." And I created quizzes for a couple of my colleagues that had businesses. They got similar results, and honestly, I haven't looked back from then, because I can do questionnaires and quizzes in my sleep. So, helping people, be more efficient and attract those qualified leads, to begin with, is kind of my mission. I'm just on a mission to make sure that people just don't waste a whole bunch of time and talk to the right people at the right time to meet their needs. When they actually need the solutions.
You covered a lot of ground very succinctly,
Yeah,
very
sorry.
quickly.
You
No,
asked me
no,
a really
it's
big
good.
question.
It's great, but it's like so many questions. I like you. I'm naturally curious. I ask a lot of questions, and so first, I want to say on the network marketing side, I did some network marketing. I think that one of the best things you can do for your personal development is go into network marketing because you learn sales, people skills, you learn soft skills. There are so many things that you pick up. You learn from the mindset to just to the networking side to, I mean, you figure things out and it's such a good development. But like you said, there are a lot of drawbacks with that as well. And it's not for everybody, but from a personal development standpoint, it is awesome. And I have to ask, how is it like working for Pepsi and working for Apple and some of the Fortune 50 companies?
Well, Apple and Pepsi in particular, I mean, you've got, a consumer packaged goods company with Pepsi, and then Apple is Apple. And I was actually there when Steve Jobs was running it, so that's a whole different animal. Um, Pepsi is an amazing corporation. It's a fantastic corporation to work for. They have a lot of really great initiatives in place for developing people, through different programs, through different employee, uh, development programs, and so on. But it's a really big company. It's a
It is.
global company. It is both beverages and food services. So if you think of as you walk into a Kentucky Fried Chicken or a Taco Bell or a Kelsey's, it's kind of like Coke or Pepsi, right?
Right.
Those are big parts of those businesses. So the business models are very, very interesting, and they are very consumer focused. They're very client focused. Apple the same way. Apple is, Apple is probably one of the best corporations for storytelling and really not getting hung up on the actual features and the actual how. So, like, when entrepreneurs start learning how to write copy or how to write emails or so on, like, it's a real struggle to get people to not focus on the how you're going to do something and focus on the end benefit of the consumer. What's the transformation that consumers are going to have? Apple does that really, really well.
So is that some of the soft skills that you picked up and have integrated that way of storytelling into your quizzes, or how do you incorporate some of that thought process in telling a story?
Yeah, so a really good quiz in particular, and a quiz is more of a two-way conversation. A lot of the information that corporations actually collect is surveys. So it's a very one-directional conversation. I ask you questions, you give me the answer, you get nothing out of it other than maybe $50 or something like that for your time. A quiz is actually taking you, Tom, on a journey to learn something about yourself. While I still, as a business owner, gather information that helps me help you. So that that storytelling comes in the form of questions, in the sense of connecting the problem that your ideal client has to solve and the solution that you have to provide. Sometimes it's an easy, link for the client to make. I'm thirsty, I want a Pepsi, right? Like, I mean, that's easy. But if it's something that requires a few more stepping stones to understand, why you, Tom, the client, should be going, hiring me as like, or we work together to help with your client attraction and client retention. There's a couple of stepping stones that has to happen for that, for you to be comfortable with that, right? It's for you to know me, to know, a little bit more about your problem, a little bit more about, how we can get from your problem to my solution. And in a way that is a little bit of a journey for you to say, where am I at now? What have I tried? Um, what do I need? What's the ideal solution for me? Oh, yeah, okay, and then I can kind of look at the information and say, Tom is here. Tom has tried this. Tom needs this, this, and this. That's what I can provide him. And I'm meeting you where you're at, and on the journey.
That's awesome. So talking about small business, and you've
Mhm.
really focused on the small business now versus the Apple, the Pepsi, the Fortune 50 companies. One of the biggest struggles small businesses have, I own a couple companies, and I struggle with this, is breaking through all the noise of social media. We're bombarded with tens of thousands of images and messages every day. So trying to grab the attention of your perfect client is a challenge.
Mhm.
Getting them into the funnel. Your quiz approach, does it help with that, or is it once you have the attention of somebody, it filters it out to get to the so you focus just on the perfect clients? So is it marketing to get clients, or is it just refining the clients that you already have?
No, it's marketing to get clients as well. So if you
Oh,
think about the quiz hook, right? That first question, that, discover this, or what's your superpower, or what's the biggest barrier for you to, go from 6 to 7 figures, or, whatever your business is doing. That question, that question has to really talk to what I call the 3 a.m. question of your ideal client, right? Like, what is that 3 a.m. question that your ideal client wakes up and thinks, oh my gosh, I want, I just wish I could. What is that? What is that in their language, right? Like, what, like, here's an example. Here's what not to do. Um, there are probably two people on the planet that actually think about optimizing quiz funnels, right? They like that, 3 a.m. Oh my gosh, how is this quiz funnel going to work? Right? It's me and one other person, and I'm being generous, right? That's not what my clients wake up thinking. They don't wake up thinking, I just wish I had a quiz funnel that worked. That's not what they say, right?
right.
They say things like, I wish I could, be more efficient with my time when I'm prospecting, or I wish that I could get more clients. I wish I could have a system in place that I could rely on. Those are the kinds of things that they wake up at 3 a.m. So when you couch that quiz hook, when you understand what that question is, and you use that question to draw them in, like, hey, let's discuss this. Let's find a solution to this 3 a.m. question that I know is driving you bonkers.
Hmm.
Then it's breaking through the noise, because then you're talking to them about, how do we solve this question for you? And a quiz, at the end of the quiz, there's a solution. So it's not just, take this course or go into this master class, or, download this checklist, or, something like that. It is let's take, a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about this, right? Get a little bit more information about where you're at, think through this a little bit, and then offer you some advice, and then offer and invite you to another conversation, whether that's a sales or discovery call, or a webinar, or maybe a masterclass, whatever that looks like for you. But now you have gained their attention, because you're actually talking to them in their language about something that's driving them nuts, that they want to know an answer to. you're helping them see how they can move through the question that they have to a solution. They're getting some relief with a solution that is takes them maybe not all the way to done, but helps them with that particular problem. And then offers more advice and more help and support by further interaction.
So, if I was a small business owner coming to you, one of the questions I would have is, what's the ROI for hiring a quiz queen?
Well, yeah, I mean, what happens is your opt-ins, you get probably about anywhere between 25 and 45% higher opt-ins.
Oh, wow.
And your conversion rates, because your quality of leads, your conversion rates go up anywhere from 10% to, I've had clients that actually double their conversion rates. So, I always talk about, I'd rather be in a room full of ideal clients that are ready to go and buy, say 20
Right.
or 30 people, than be in a stadium full of 10,000 and try to find those 20 or 30 people. Right. So, what a quiz does is put you into the smaller room with more qualified people.
Okay, gotcha. So it's using the in terms of a fisherman, it's using the right bait for the right
Ye-
fish.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, that's for all the fishermen out there, fisherwomen out there. Um, see, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have seen small business owners have um, when you first start talking to them? What are some of the challenges that they've expressed that they're experiencing?
In implementing this solution or in general?
Just in general, and then my next
In
follow-up
general.
question is going to be after that is, what are some things that you are able to solve with their some of the larger problems?
So I think the biggest thing that especially startups go through, and I went through the same thing, is a little bit of shiny object syndrome.
Mm.
So, and a little bit of believing that there's actually a silver bullet in one particular methodology, right? So, what is challenging for people is that there's a million ways to market your business. There really is. Like there's a million ways that you can market your business. Um, there's no one right way, and there's no one size fits all. Like if you just do this, you'll make six figures, right?
Right.
People say that, and you can do that with some of these things, but there's a lot of different, like there's, Facebook challenges, and there's, LinkedIn follow-ups, and there's, master classes and webinars, and there's all these things, and people jump from marketing strategy to marketing strategy like it's like they're chasing that silver bullet, and you end up spending a lot of time and a lot of money learning solutions that may not be the best for your business, and you may not even like them, right? So if you learn something on about Instagram reels or something like that, and you don't like being on video and you don't like being on social media, that's not helpful, right?
Right.
Because you're not going to be consistent. You're just not. Like if you don't like doing it, you're not going to do it. Unless you hire somebody to do it. And if you get to that point, do the stuff that you love doing and then hire somebody to do the stuff that you don't like. So that I think that chasing the rainbow, almost like chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because you think that the next big virtual summits or in-person events or, this networking group or this style of marketing, or it's not a one and done thing. It's a finding your stride and finding what lights you up, and putting yourself in a position to connect with your ideal clients, knowing where they are, knowing really like that's the other thing, is really knowing your target audience super well. So stop chasing the shiny objects. Make sure you understand and really have dialed in to the needs and wants of your ideal clients, and find them where they're at, and then kind of connect the two, right? Where does it intersect where you love hanging out and they love hanging out? and then figure out how to actually engage with them. So I think, um, yeah, like there's a lot of running around, like, like if I just spend $1,000 here or $2,000 here, or I can do it in AI, or I can do it this, that, the other way. You can. Yes, but there's only like so many hours in the day, so much time, and you're never gonna master all the ways. So start from the other end, pick what you love doing, and then figure out how to master that.
I love that is such a gold nugget. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, listen to what she just said. It is one of the biggest pieces of advice that you'll ever hear in business. That's so well said. Um, and I have to say that talking about the marketing piece in small business, one of the things that big business does versus a small business, I say big, probably 20 million and up or 50 million up, depending on what industry you're in, is not having an adequate marketing budget. Most of the larger companies have a marketing budget. It is big, but look at your marketing budget in terms of a percentage of your revenue. You have to put money aside to market, to create awareness, to create conversion, to create traction. And if you don't do that, you can't cut through the noise. So you have to have a marketing budget, and you have to have it as a percentage of your revenue. And it could be upwards toward 10% of every dollar you bring in. You're spending 10%, and that's a big number as far as percentage. But that may be what you need versus maybe a different industry. So there's a right percentage there. But you touched on something early on in your last answer, that you struggled with this shiny object syndrome as a new
Mhm.
entrepreneur, new small business owner. So I want to dive into what are some of the biggest challenges you've had personally as an entrepreneur?
So I work for a boss that fires me every day almost. So I
Okay.
end up like, like it's hard to motivate yourself. It's hard as a solopreneur, if you are a solopreneur, to all of a sudden have all this time and actually kind of motivating yourself and getting yourself into the right mindset and moving into that CEO mentality of, you're not just um it's not just a hobby, it's a business. Look at your numbers, making sure that you're making hard decisions and becoming the CEO of your business. I think the other challenge is working in your business instead of on your business, so that like being the jack of all trades, being the person that does everything. um I wish that I had spent less time learning a whole bunch of different, shiny objects, as if you will, and spent that money instead on hiring, on finding the people who could help me, whether that was hiring a copywriter part-time, or hiring a VA, or hiring even somebody to help me with like a project to, let's get this launched, help me do this. So I wish I had spent less time trying to learn everything and do it myself, and hired the people to help me along, because what CEOs do is they pay for speed. So
Right.
if you want to get somewhere quicker, then find people that have either done it already or that can help you do it faster. And I wish I had done a little bit more of that.
So I have to say, and there are probably 3 or 4 points running through my head as I'm listening to you talk, is 10 before 10. Delegate 10 things before 10 o'clock in the morning. That's one cliche, it's easy to remember. And take 80% of your task and work to delegate 80% of your task, and you only focusing on the top 20%, or really the high value or the high risk or the most important decisions that you have to make. And oftentimes it's not doing the work, but it might be making a decision and doing the analytics required to make that decision. Um, so I'll go back to your answer. And we talked about the biggest challenges. In keeping with the theme of the podcast, what are your biggest successes you've had personally and in business?
I think, well, so you talked about network marketing originally to as a great personal development tool. I think actually it goes broader than that, and entrepreneurship I think is the biggest personal development journey that you'll ever take, because entrepreneurs if somebody like Tom, if you say, oh, you know what, this book changed me, this book, like, I really love this book, like, I'll go read it because I love, like, learning from others and doing that kind of thing, and learning new ways to think about things, and just the personal development that's involved in stepping into an identity, like a maybe a seven-figure business owner or a CEO, stepping into I'm going to be the voice of my purpose and my why, and fighting off imposter syndrome and fighting off not being motivated, and just even surviving 5 years of owning a business, like those are really, like, I've done more personal development in the last 5 years of my life than I did in the first 50, I can tell you that. And so that's one of the things I think has changed me, like, completely. And the other thing is, I'm super proud of what I'm building, but I'm also super proud of the connections that I've made and the people that I've connected with, like the lifelong friends, that in the last few years that I've connected with through networking or through events and things like that, and just really pushing myself and being, honestly, being that self motivator, and pushing myself outside my comfort zone, that's hard to do by yourself, so having those mentors, those coaches, those colleagues that are in the same place that you are in your journey, that's when it really helps for them to kind of say, no, I don't think you should be doing that because that sounds easy for you. Let's push it, a notch further and stretch a little bit more.
So going back to your 5 year part of your answer there, most entrepreneurs fail. Let me rephrase that. Most entrepreneurs don't fail fast enough. They're so afraid of failure, they try to avoid failure. But in failure, you learn what works and what doesn't work. So the faster you fail, the faster you learn things that don't work that will lead to the things that do work. And it's said that you have to spend 10,000 hours doing something to become an expert. That's essentially 5 years. But 97, 98% of entrepreneurs fail in the first 5 years. And I think that if people and entrepreneurs were to fail faster, they would learn what works, what doesn't work, and the success rate would go up tremendously. So I think it's just having that
Yeah.
perseverance just to pursue and push past a failure.
And I think that the definition of failure needs to include or exclude, I guess, the ability to pivot. I mean, I started in network marketing, right? Like, I started one way.
Right.
When I started working with people with quizzes, I started with an online course, right? I hardly even do the online course anymore. I work one on one with clients because I want to go deeper with, their business and their client attraction and client retention. So I've had, kind of a few, I call it a few iterations, but some of them have just been different businesses, completely. Like, I closed one down and started another, but it was a very fluid conversation for me. From the outside, it might not look like that. Like, it might look like
Right.
I failed, quote unquote, with the network marketing. That was never my end game. I knew that. I didn't own the information that and the courses and so on, so I knew that that wasn't my end game, and that's fine, right? Like, it got me started. I'm grateful for the lessons learned and how it started me on this path. But I think the ability to pivot and um and always Dan Kennedy calls it living in the gain as opposed to living in the gap. So always kind of like, like I've come this far, like wow, like, celebrating the achievements daily that, you've made as opposed to being hard on yourself because you didn't make seven figures in 6.2 seconds. Because let me tell you, that 6.2 seconds took 10 years to get to for most people. So calm down. Like, it's fine.
That's right. Well, I failed in business miserably, and I had a choice to make. Do I go get a job, or do I take the lessons I've learned from failure, take the lessons I've learned that worked, and roll that forward into another business and build on the foundation? And that was a tough decision. And I think a lot of folks go, I'm gonna go get a job when they're so close to breaking through and using the lessons they've learned to find their success. And success is defined differently by everybody. Everyone has a different their own version of success, and I think that is so important of itself. Um, but we are almost out of time. I asked this question, and I'm going to change gears on the audience and yourself just a little bit. I asked this question from every guest that we have. It's one of the last questions I always ask. The answers always surprise me. And if you could take any one person to dinner from either the past or in the present, who would it be and what would you talk about?
Yeah, I'm gonna change my answer because I had an answer already, but I'm gonna change that. I would probably take Elon Musk to dinner. And only, well, not only for, but because I kind of want to pick his brain. He thinks similar to Steve Jobs. He thinks about 10 years in into the future. He's living 10 years or more into the future. And I just kind of want to pick his brain as to what he thinks is coming up and how to get ahead of the curve.
Um, that is an excellent discussion. I'd be really curious to know that as well. And
Hmm.
I
You can
suspect
come. You can come to dinner.
yeah, I appreciate that. I would almost imagine some of his responses have to do with space exploration, the use of artificial intelligence, self-driving cars. Obviously, that's Tesla, right? Automation. I'd be really curious to know some of his answers. That's a good
He
question.
has Yeah, he has an umbrella of companies that people don't know, like doesn't get talked a lot about with
Right.
like, SpaceX and Tesla obviously get talked about. But there's multitude of other businesses that are just it's kind of like Virgin, like Richard Branson, like he's got mobile and he's got an airline and he's got like what like credit cards and what? So it's just like trying to figure out like how that all plays together. And I think play actually is a big word for them. I felt like it looked like fun. I think I'm going to play over here.
Let's do it.
I've heard Richard Brunson say that before. um and yeah, I would just love to hear Elon because some of his companies are very aka boring, and I bet that
No pun
they're
intended,
you know
right?
yeah,
The
exactly, and
boring
I bet that
company.
they're the boring company. Yeah, the boring company, exactly. That wasn't intended actually, but yeah, I'd just be it'd be fun to kinda sit down and figure that out.
Awesome. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for taking time. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And last question, I know I said that was last. You have so much knowledge, and I want to have a give somebody a way to get in touch with you if they have questions. How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, the easiest way to reach out to me is to go to quizformybiz.com.
Is for
Um,
okay.
and yeah, quizformybiz.com. And that is a quiz that you can take to learn how a quiz might be able to help your business, but it also is an invitation to connect with me further.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, the quiz queen herself, thank you so much for taking time today, and best luck to you and your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.